It's obvious Dan was a chameleon, always the same with many different lives. Just looking at the crowd. He came into my family's life 55 years ago. I was just a young girl, 15, 16. And he remained in our lives for 55 years, collectively and individually. There were 7 kids in the family, and we moved to Tucson, and he had just come to Tucson, away from the Korean War, and was going to the University of Arizona. And my sister met him, and of course she thought he was really cute. And of course I fell in love with him. He was my very first love. Oh my gosh. Nobody was more brilliant and charming, and his freckles, every freckle, just setting on fire. It was just unbelievable. But he was the brother, my brother Terry, who is here, was just a skinny little kid. My brother Pat was in college, but he was in Minnesota. And my father was en route. The furniture, everything was en route. And we got there at Thanksgiving, and who knows, my sister had met Dan Killeen at the Newman Club, and so we had Dan and Tony Chang and Jackie, all these people from the Newman Club came to dinner. My mother cooked everything. We had no utensils. My sister reminded me of that this morning. We were talking about it. But Daniel became a friend. Somebody up here said how we like to argue. Oh my God. You'd come home, and at any given time, he'd be in the living room with his tie off, beating the floor, swearing that this is how it is, and you don't know what you're talking about. With all different, every member of the family, half the Newman Club. You thought the Newman Club was at our little house. And he became a friend, individually, of every single person in the family. He became a very good friend with my father, and then became a very big enemy with my father. I mean, the Irish know how to drink, but the Irish know how to fight. And there's a t-shirt my niece was telling me about that her husband, who's in O'Hara, it said, "You can tell an Irishman, but you can't tell him much." Well, that was Dan. He knew everything. And like he said, someone said, he delighted in the fact when he could prove you wrong. And of course, you misunderstood it when you proved him. He delighted in the fact when he proved you wrong and he was right. And of course, you misunderstood him completely if you proved him wrong and you right. But clear up to the end, he came to my brother's funeral. Every year he could travel to Minnesota to visit my family. I'm in California, he always promised. A few times he came, but he was always going to get there. But it was harder. It was harder to get there. He and Lee came a few times when she still had an aunt out there who's now in Ohio. But it was harder California was further away, than Minnesota. But every single member of our family had an individual relationship with him. With my brother, my older brother, off in Minnesota, if my mother needed the kids to be gotten from here, she called Daniel. If Daniel didn't have a car, he borrowed a car. If she needed this done, or she needed, whatever she needed, he was another son. And he fit into that family, arguing, fighting, spitting, yelling, screaming. He fit in so well, just so well. We will miss him just as much as all of you will. And he was a character, clear to the end. He was the sexiest, most lovable, most aggravatable, annoying. He was all of those things that a chameleon is. And I know that for the McGrath family, there'll never be another Daniel. Couldn't be. And his family is always part of our family.